everybody back. You ready?
Thank you.
Order? Okay. Okay. You'll have the opportunity for a brief vote. You go first.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to take this opportunity to thank the appeals board for going through this process. And I also want to say that I know it's a learning curve for all of us. And I hope that something is gained from this. And I would like to thank Mr. Jenkins for giving me copies of information that would have been more helpful, and I would like to apologize that I was not more prepared. I am not an attorney and have not really gone through this process, so I want to thank you, Mr. Tennant, for your patience. But I still feel that as the appeals board for the Doddridge County residents and the process that's in place, I feel that your primary concern in making your decision is to think about the welfare and the well-being of the residents of this county. I feel that any activity that's going on in our floodplains adversely affects us all, has the potential of adversely affecting our water wells and our water supplies, as well as other issues. I also feel that companies that do not follow the process and show due respect to processes that are in place are disrespectful of the communities that they're working in and do not find them to be good corporate citizens. And I firmly hope that as you folks sit down to figure this out, that even though the science, as Mr. Gilbert sees the science, seems to promote that there's no adverse effects, but the actuality is there will be stuff in that floodplain, there will be work going on for months, there will be the potential of flooding occurring and us having the stuff that's on that site floating down the creek. And those are where, you know, my concerns come in. I do not live in that area, but as a county resident, I felt I had to do this to speak for the people that do not have a voice or do not know how to deal with some of this, or are too shy or timid or don't have a place to turn to. I personally, you were asking about gains or whatever, I personally have no profit from any activity occurring here other than the potential profit of having clean waterways and maintaining some of the integrity of this beautiful county. But thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank the Commission and everyone else that came out and gave us this opportunity. We recognize the citizens' concern, and I want to address head-on the fact that JB failed to apply for a floodplain permit in this instance. Just recently, until last year, as this Commission well knows, no one was doing floodplain permits, be it the guy putting a trailer down the street, be it an oil and gas company, be it anyone. And that's been the case significantly across the state. And so it wasn't any malicious intent upon JB to avoid this. It was just something that no one really truly thought about. And when they were embroiled in this situation, we've acted in good faith to work with this Commission to go through the new process and to present the information that's necessary to ensure that we do everything properly. And we have a registered engineer that has shown that this operation will not increase the base flood elevation. And it's one of the hardest things to understand, because when I represent the DEP and mining cases, part of what the permit had to do was show what stormwater would run off from a surface mine. And it was never the intent that the mine was to create a situation that would limit the amount of water. They just had to make sure that they didn't put more water out or faster water out. It wasn't to change from the natural conditions. And that's the same situation here. The idea is not to increase the base flood elevation more than a foot. This operation will not do that. There's been no evidence to the contrary that it will. And unfortunately, the Kaufman's trailer that happens to be downstream is in the floodplain. And regardless of what JB does, that mobile home will still remain in the floodplain and is still subject to the 1% chance per year, and maybe even worse. If you have, in researching all this, there's what they call a 500-year flood, a 0.02% chance, which would be even significantly larger. And so that's the concern that really gets to the central issue of these permits, that as long as a person's development or operations within the floodplain, do not increase that flood elevation level. Because when you do increase that flood elevation level, you do have the impacts that the citizens are worried about. And so it's appropriate in this situation where a study clearly shows that that's not going to happen to a significant degree, that there's really, insignificantly any change, that there's not going to be this effect. And so we believe that the permit should be granted. We recognize and, in some respect, JB has been punished for failing to obtain this floodplain permit prior to it. Their operations have been delayed almost a year now, 2/3 of a year. So, we come here in good faith, and we get before this commission, present our evidence, and request that the decision to grant the floodplain permit be upheld. That we request that the commission to look at the information submitted to address any other issues or any other questions that there may be, and we appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, Greg? Sure. You go into executive session?
So moved.
Motion's been made for executive session at 6:44. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. In executive session.